Okay, so this time we're going to be talking about the Enneagram triggers, motivators, fears, and other influences. As we're going through this session, keep a piece of paper handy, and when you recognize a predominant aspect of yourself, write down the number and let's see what you look at towards the end. I'm going to flip through this section quite quickly because it's a lot of the same sort of thing. However, the concepts are quite important. So go back to the notes and revise it afterwards so that you can take a deeper dive into the topics. Right, so triggers, motivators, fears, and other influences in the Enneagram. I'm going to look at, first of all, core motivators of the type. So what this concept is we're going to go through what motivates people in the slide. And then as the slides progress, it's all different facets of the Enneagram that we're going to be talking about. So each type has a core motivator that drives their behavior or how they show up. So if you think about it, this type has to or have to. So if we go around the circle, the number one is the strict perfectionist, have to do the right thing. And I'm sure you all relate to somebody in your life who is very pedantic and always wants to do the right thing. If it's your manager, well, you may have to tick all of those boxes. Number two, have to be liked and appreciated. This type of person wants to be loved. Everything they do is to generate appreciation, and they do it out of a very strong feeling and a personal aspect. The threes, the competitive achievers, they're competitive, as the word suggests, and they have to achieve. They have to outshine the rest. They want to be the best. And I'm sure in your team, or in your group of friends or associates, you know who this person is. The four has to be unique and authentic. These are our deep thinkers, or our deep feelers, rather. They really feel everything. Often creative, they have to be unique and authentic all the time. Fives, the quiet specialists, they have to understand everything. You know, not really just want to understand stuff at a surface level. They want to go deep down and understand what's going on and the detail of why you said what you said. The loyal skeptics, the sixes, have to be strong and want a sense of belonging. The sevens have to experience it all, and at all costs they're trying to avoid pain while doing so. The eights, the active controllers, they have to be in control, and they want to be seen as strong and often are very strong. And the nines, the adaptive peacemakers, have to keep the balance. So they want to be the peacemaker at all times. So that's the format that I'm going to be going through, and I will speed up on the next section of slides. However, you have the ability to print out the attachment and then go through this in your own time as well. So the core fears, conflict for the nine, being criticized for the one, being unloved for the two, being seen as worthless for the three, four, being ordinary, five, being seen as foolish, for the six, hate being unprepared, seven, myself, please don't limit me. I want to be able to go out there and experience it all. The eights, the controllers, they don't want to be seen as vulnerable, and they act that way. They very seldom allow vulnerability to come to the fore, unless it's in a very personal situation. And the nines hate being in conflict. Anybody you recognize? Do you recognize yourself in there? The core moral values or ideals of each type. Goodness for the one, love for the two, love being effective for the threes, fours, the creators, they love originality. Fives, value wisdom. Six, value loyalty, both from themselves and from others. Sevens, going out and have a whole great time. Eights love to see themselves as having the capacity and the strength to do what they need to do to take control. And the adaptive peacemakers, the nines, love peace. It's what they value above all else. How I see myself? Nines, I am settled. Eights, I can do this. Seven, I'm okay. Six, I'm loyal and I'm responsible. The sevens, I am perceptive. I can see what's going on and I am wise. The four, I am special. I am sensitive. The threes, I am efficient and I'm successful. The twos see themselves as being helpful. And the ones, the strict perfectionists, once again, I am good and I am right. Blind spots, or the bits that you avoid, it's the part of you that you may not realize, but others do. So for the strict perfectionist, people will see anger and resentment. For the considerate helper, the two can sometimes be seen as needy. Threes really do not like failure. It is not even in their vocabulary. The fours, the intense creatives, they want to be special. So they don't want to be ordinary or superficial. They want to go deep. Five, hate emptiness. They want to know the detail. Six, rebellion and entrapment, remembering that the loyal skeptic values loyalty. So rebellion and entrapment really is not their cup of tea. Seven, often try and hide their pain through their monkey mind and through their love of life. The vulnerability of the is important for the active eight. That's their blind spot. They don't like to be seen as weak, but it's sometimes what they need. And then the nines, because of their absolute beautiful demeanor, they don't want to be in conflict. Not at all. They dislike conflict and will be that balancing force between the parties. Distorted principles being this is how we lead our life to overcome our pain, our triggers. Quiet and calm acceptance of the things as they are for the perfectionist, for the nine, the adaptive peacemaker. Perfectionism is the distorted principle of the one. Two is situationalism, and that's the theory of human behavior determined by surrounding circumstances rather than personal qualities. So it's how they take their personal qualities and bring them into the situation in order to try and affect that situation. Pragmatism for the three, remembering that they always want to win. Romanticism, going deep, going inside themselves is very much a romanticism type of trait. For the quiet specialist, it's rationalism. For the six, it's fanaticism. For the seven, it's hedonism. And I'm going to go to the AR definition of hedonism in the sense, it's the highest good and proper aim of human life in that it's the theory of pleasure. So for me, the seven, it's about how much pleasure I can get out of life. And that's the distorted principle. It leads to some conflicting situations, I must admit. For the eight, I am in control, and this is the way that I can control and bring success. Moving on, the vice or shadow. So in the IEQ 9, the methodology or the notes and the theory revolves around the vice. In other Enneagram models, you may see it called shadow. So vice and shadow, the same term, just once again referring to different models of the Enneagram. Same principle, different terminology. And you can see that there. So the vice of the 9 is lethargy, of the 1 is anger, of the 2 is pride, of the 3 is deceit, the 4 is envy, the 5 is avarice, the fear for the 6, gluttony for the 7, and lust for the 8. Lethargy for the 9 refers to not taking action because they want to keep the peace. Anger, this needs to be right for the 1. Pride for the 2, I've done good stuff for you. You need to do good stuff for me so that I can be satisfied. Deceit for the 3, it's sometimes the case that in the pursuit of the competitive achievement or being successful, deceit could creep in. Envy for the 4, intense creative. I'm being creative, but I'm still could be envious of what you're doing. Avarice for knowledge, for detail, for the 5. Fear of the unknown for the 6th. Gluttony for me, the 7. And that's not gluttony in terms of food, it's a gluttony in terms of experiences. And once in that experience, not being able to let go. The lust for power for the 8, and we've already spoken about now. Once again, this is a very strong aspect in the personalities. Seeing anything about yourself? Write down that number. Defense mechanisms. Narcotization for the 9, removing yourself from the situation. Okay, sort of numbing yourself to the situation. Reaction formation for the 1, repression of feelings for the 2, identification of the issues for the 3, introjection and fantasy, moving into a fantasy world for the 4, isolation, compartmentalization, it's the 5, withdrawing into themselves to focus on the detail, taking themselves out of the situation. 6, loyal skeptic, it's projection of me onto others or of what the situation is. Sublimation for the 7, and that's about diving into stuff and making yourself so much into the topic that you remove the pain of whatever is going on. Denial for the 8, and that can be the denial of the vulnerability, as we've spoken to before. What triggers the different personality types? And once again, this is an area which you could recognize quite a lot. Being criticized for the strict perfectionist, being taken for granted for the considerate helper, being set up for failure for the competitive achiever. For the intense creative, it's being ignored or slighted. For the quiet specialist, it's being overwhelmed or suppressed. For the loyal skeptic, it's being under external pressure. For the enthusiastic visionary, it's being confined or restricted. And for the 8, it's being controlled. And for the adaptive peacemaker, it's being in conflict. So almost the opposite of what the title of the personality type is. Growth. The Enneagram gives us direction for growth. So it's moving from the vice to the virtue. So for the adaptive peacemaker, it's moving from self-forgetting me in those situations to taking the right action. For the strict perfectionist, the 1, it's moving from anger about things not being right into a mode of serenity where you accept things not being right. For the considerate helper, it's moving to a state of humility whereby you realize that things just are, and you need to accept that. You need to accept others. For the competitive achiever, it's moving to a state of authenticity, recognizing where you may not be authentic and taking action to move into that authentic state. For the 4, it's moving from being envious of others to a state of equanimity. For the 5, it's non-attachment to what we know. So it's not taking everything and having to dive into that state of wanting to know everything and just letting go of stuff. For the 6, it's moving to a state of courage from fear, courage to take action. For the 7, the enthusiastic visionary, is moving from a state of gluttony to sobriety. Sobriety in this case is nothing to do with alcohol. It's got to do with a state of accepting things as they are and just being, in my own terminology, of where my feet are. For the 8, it's moving from a lust for control and power to a state of innocence. And innocence is, let other people take control sometimes. I'm just going to stand back. Growth through the Enneagram. In summary, we've looked at the core aspects that help explain the different personalities. We've looked at the motivators, the fears of the sore points. We looked at the moral values of each, the idealized image, how we like to see ourselves. We've looked at our blind spots. We've looked at the distorted principles. We've looked at the vice or the shadow, which may lead us astray. And then we've looked at the virtue, which is our growth path, defense mechanisms, and triggers. So once again, any guesses as to your type, write it down. If at all during this process you go, Tom, I just don't understand something, please use the link below in the course sequence to set up a cup of coffee. Hey, let's just have a cup of coffee and talk it through. I promise you, it's just going to be a discussion. Thank you. See you next time.